Alright, welcome back to the perspective project. So in the last tutorial you guys have done the first of project, which was the 1, 2, and 3 point perspective. Little studies, they should be very quick. Again, none of them except maybe the third point would be longer than like maybe 30, 40 minutes. So MC Escher is a great artist to look at for perspective and working from imagination. I love MC Escher's work because he knows perspective quite well, but he also negates it in many fun ways. He also it has this wonderful sort of charm of merging shapes into forms and vice versa, forms into shapes, and it's just really fun. And then he does this a lot with his work where he flips the perspective in unusual ways. He's this wonderful graphic artist that done these amazing prints. You should really check out if you've never seen him in person. I highly recommend him. So here's the project. So you're basically going to create this tower. I call it the box project, but it could be any kind of box-like structures or simple forms, columns, cones, etc. Using 2 point perspective on 18 by 24 inch drawing paper. Now, you can include more than 2 points of perspective and have the vanishing points, but they don't have to necessarily be on the paper. So you notice the first project we just did, you had vanishing points going off and you can actually see them. So you can imagine them going off the page. So you can suggest the lines converge and vanishing points go off the page. This basically will allow you to have a more realistic representation of perspective. I'm not necessarily looking for perfect perspective, but perspective that feels correct. That's really important. You can draw in pencil first and then go over in ink. Add textures and patterns to finalize your design in pen ink. And use the texture handout as a guide at the end of the slideshow to inspire you for ideas. I usually hand this out in the classroom to experiment with textures. Include a variety of lines and values for hatching or shading, and add additional imagery. Let your imagination take over. I mean, you can really have fun with this project and explore lots of different things. So here's my example. I have pretty much lots of cubes in the center here, cube-like forms. Some of them look like they're wrapped with some crazy pattern. Some look like they're made out of like stone or brick or glass. Then I have some column structures in the distance. So you can do this kind of thing. You want to include cross hatching and shading. I do recommend picking a light direction for this and sort of being consistent. Most of the light is coming from the right and the top. It's not all exactly consistent, but most of it's kind of coming from that direction. There's not strong shadows on the columns, so certain areas have more textural detail than shaded detail. Here's some student work examples. This one has like a bee kind of theme, which is real fun, and this melting goo of like almost like venom goo coming off. And student was very interested in polygonal sort of structures. The honeycomb structure was really interesting in this. Lots of really cool shading. This one had really fun with patterns and just imagination. You can see a surreal aspect of an eye floating, objects floating around. That's totally fine. You can really let your imagination go crazy here. This one has some really other interesting energy throughout. It's almost like music dancing throughout with all the patterns. All the silhouetted patterns start to become figures in the space. This one's a little more subtle. It feels almost like a traditional landscape. When you're drawing these patterns or textures, try and follow the form. That will really help you out in terms of the direction. So notice the lines going this way on the smaller box here, and then they go angled upwards on this other box. You can do brick patterns, glass, whatever kind of texture you want, really. You could have some dynamic stripe pattern or something as a shape behind it in Sharpie. Again, all this is getting eventually done in Sharpies with lots of rendering, but think about that in terms of your overall design, what you want to accomplish in here. Here's another one that has more of like a transparent box at the bottom, and then more solid ones, they go up the top, and then a deep shadow behind everything, which is really nice. This one has more textural kind of quality. And then this was a time when I incorporated or allowed pencil to be incorporated with the ink. I'd like you guys to do just Sharpie, strip Sharpie, but this one they did some shading in the background. I think they didn't quite finish it. I think they were ultimately planning on doing Sharpie in the background on here. Here's the texture handout I was talking about. So again, kind of just describes how each texture is drawn out and with this hand here and give you an idea of how to incorporate and look at textures. I do recommend looking at real textures out there in real life. It's a great practice to find everything. So here's my final example. Again, this tower project's a big project on the 18 by 24 paper. Again, you can draw in pencil first, then ink with Sharpie. Think about overlapping forms, having the perspective, add your values, your textures, and have lots of fun with it. Include whatever things you like for your imagination. It is a big project, though. It's definitely going to take a couple weeks to finish this project. So have fun. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.